Yo, everybody. Welcome to Off Panel, a weekly interview podcast about all things comics, brought to you by Sketch.com. I'm your host, David Harper, and this week's guest is a retailer to the stars and one of the folks who runs the show at Dublin's finest comic shop, Big Bang Comics. It's John Hendrick. Thanks for coming on, John.
No problem, Dave. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well. Actually, that fits into my first question, which comes from a patron, Sean from California. He didn't identify himself beyond that, asked, how are you doing?
How does he spell Sean?
Shawn. Sean Kirkham.
That's Sean Kirkham.
I know.
Yeah.
Our mutual pal. He was checking in on you. You want to see how you're doing?
We talk all the time, actually. So, yeah, we're the two of us are looking at getting into 3D printing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I haven't bought a printer yet, but he has, and he was like sending me photos, and I was like, "Oh, tell me what it's like," and stuff. And we were joking that we should start up a kind of like YouTube video podcast just about just stupid shit we 3D print. That because then it's not anything to do with comics. It's like an actual hobby outside of work.
That seems like a good idea. Although, do you really need more hobbies?
No, I don't need more things to do, but throughout the last, I suppose, from the pandemic, I've actually like started to enjoy hobbies.
That's good.
Yeah. Because beforehand it was all so much work, trying to save the comic industry, trying to help people in comics. But then the pandemic kind of slowed me down a bit, and I started to like rediscover things that I like doing.
What's an example?
So I really like action figures again, but I really like making action figures of things that either don't exist or making action figures of friends.
Of friends? Do I have an action figure?
No, not yet.
Ah, damn.
Yeah, I'm making one for Sean at the moment, actually.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
It's funny. I was going to bring this up later, but what is your first like kind of nerd love? Is it action figures? Were comics first? What's your number one in your hierarchy?
No, it's not. Yeah, it's comics. It's 100% comics. But growing up as a kid, all the comics that I read were, first of all, were very toy adjacent. So it was like, it was that old amazing 80s trifecta of comic book, toy, and cartoon. That's and it's funny that recently that whole trifecta, I was discussing this with someone else recently, like we are the first generation where our nostalgia is driving so many different industries.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean everything, and it makes me really terrified of what happens in the next 10 years, because I don't think those kids that were that into like, VR troopers give such a damn about, we had like Transformers and G.I. Joe and Masters of the Universe, and it drives so much stuff. Whereas like I think after that, I don't think that I just can't see there being a huge renaissance and massive action figure industry of like Beetleborgs or the Mystic Knights of Tir na Nog or something like that.
Even just like Beast Wars from Transformers. Like I don't think that, will ever be as big as the original, the OG Transformers.
But that's because of our age. But actually, so they're going that way at the moment.
They're going Beast Wars?
They're going Beast Wars.
That's insane.
And it doesn't sell as well as G1, but I've met plenty of people that actually prefer Beast Wars to G1 now.
Yeah, I don't know. I stopped. I stopped after I was like, that's my Transformers. I was like 8, so I didn't really have a really strong... for some reason, I had very strong opinions back then. If anything, since I've become an adult, I have far fewer strong opinions, which is weird, because seemingly everyone I know just has stronger and stronger opinions with the passing of age. I'm like, whatever, man. Whatever floats your boat.
I've become way more chilled out. I just don't care.
Yeah.
It's like, if that's what you're into... And I think it's probably because I meet such strong personalities because of all of this stuff that I'm doing at the moment. I had a guy in yesterday, and I felt sorry for his children.
Like a customer?
Yeah, he was hardcore. He was pretty intense. I got a very large Hasbro delivery in, and I knew it had a lot of items that we'd often on pre-order. So a lot of it was already ordered.
Was this the Star Wars stuff we talked about earlier in the week?
Yeah, it was Star Wars, it was Transformers, it was Marvel Legends. So it was a lot of stuff. But I'd sent out an email saying, this is coming. It is coming on this day. Don't come into the store until you get your confirmation receipt. That shows it's being processed. So if you're gonna, if it's not getting shipped out, and it's a collecting store, like just don't come in because we worked on that yesterday for the guts in 9 hours. Just that delivery and processing it and, and sending it out for everyone all around the world and all around Ireland and stuff. And this guy was in at like, the delivery arrived in at like 11. This guy was in at like 11:15 going, I'm here to pick up this stuff. And I was like, but we haven't processed it yet. And he was like, well, I know what I ordered, so I'll just take it out of the boxes. And I was like, no, you can't do that. So,
Like, this is not how businesses work.
no, but look, I get it. People are very excited and very passionate about this stuff. But then there's also the people who are too excited and too passionate. But he wanted his figures and he wanted them now.
Yeah. I think it's interesting though because I think a lot of times when people think of, comic shop owners, I mean they probably think of the Simpsons and everything, but also
Yeah.
beyond that they think of people who are just hardcore fans and are going to like chew you out for like not liking the right things. Most of the retailers I talk to, and I would say you're certainly amongst this number, it's like you almost have to mellow out on your passions to a certain degree because you're not going to try to talk customers out of liking what they like. Ideally, you just lean into that. And it's like if somebody wants Beast Wars or if they want Generation 1, Transformers stuff, it doesn't matter as long as they buy it, right?
Well, yeah, but you also want to cultivate that customer into becoming a repeat customer and fostering that community and things like that. So when I
You'll
started
talk
doing
them
all,
into it. You won't talk them out of it, I guess is what I'm saying.
no, but also as well, you got to be open for them talking you into stuff that you don't know about.
Yeah, sure.
You know, I've never watched the original Beast Wars cartoon, but then I had a customer tell me about these like couple of episodes that tie heavily into the Generation One thing, and I think it was like Ravage, travel through time, and you see the dead bodies of all the Autobots and Decepticons that we know and stuff, and because it turns out that those characters are descendants of the characters we knew, which is kind of weird because I never thought about Transformers procreating,
I didn't
but
either.
apparently, yeah, I know, but it was interesting, and it was interesting enough that I didn't watch the episodes, but I did go and look into them when I had a few minutes, and it got added to the list of things that I will eventually one day possibly watch, but probably never.
Yeah, yeah. Well, okay, so let's jump into talking about a little bit about like your last year because the last time you were on was at the end of March 2020, which, feels like
Such a good time.
I mean, so I look back on that month with fondness, like just deep fondness. But it also is like basically somehow a lifetime ago and also feels really recent, which is really weird. But Big Bang has changed a lot since then. And
Yeah.
I mean that's one of the things I really want to talk to you about. Like the biggest thing I want to talk to you about because I feel like a lot of shops I've talked to have changed in the last year, both in how they do the stuff, but also in like their product mixes. But maybe you guys more than anyone. So what's like the last year and a half been like for you in the shop? Like, could you, looking back on it when we were, I mean, maybe you don't remember exactly, but could you imagine how much the shop was going to change at the beginning of all of this?
At, yeah, so at the start of the pandemic, it was just survival. I was treading water. I was doing everything I could. I was living alone and I was in work alone because I could walk to work. We had a 5 kilometer limit. If you were found outside of your 5 kilometers, then you get like fined. It was a criminal offense. Um, so luckily, I have an apartment close enough to work. Bruno worked remotely, and it was just me in the store and him on the other end of the phone. Um, and we had done like 90% of the work on the website on Comic Club, but we just hadn't done that just when the pandemic started. So we had about a 6 to 8 week thing, and then as soon as we went live with the website, shit happened. It just all of a sudden we were making money again. It was far easier than doing stuff over the phone and things like that. So I do believe that we owe a huge proportion of our survival to Comic Club. Um, and then, so as time went on and books started to come back, that was fine. But in the middle of the pandemic, I'd been trying to cultivate different product lines within the store for a while. But it's difficult to do when you're in that system, when you're in the diamond system of 24/7 of like you get your invoice on a Friday, you put that on your system, you start taking pre-orders, the delivery arrives like Tuesday, new comics Wednesday, you sell them Thursday, new invoice Friday. It's a cycle and it eats up all of your time. It's just the way it is. And it's different to pretty much everything because we handle so many different SKUs or products, people. That's what I mean by SKUs. We handle so many different products every week that it's huge. And if you work in a bookstore, you don't get that many different books a week. If you work in any store, you don't get that many different products every week. So it is pretty big. But I've been trying really, really hard to work with Hasbro for years. They have a program called Fan Channel, and I tried to get into it for like 3 years straight, and I couldn't. The money was too much. I mean, it was daunting because you have to order. Basically they tell you how much money you have to spend with them a year, and you either say yeah, let's do it, and you sign the contracts to do it, or you go that's too much. And I'd never really taken the leap. But in the meantime, I'd been cultivating the action figure business enough through different distributors that I'd begun to get a good chunk of the market. And then the pandemic hit, and I just said, fuck this. And I went to Hasbro again, and it's notoriously hard. They're notoriously hard to get in touch with. But some nice person there actually gave me the mobile phone number of the guy who was in charge of Fan Channel. And I had a few discussions with him throughout the years at different conventions and stuff. So when I rang him, he was like, okay, I think we've met. And I said, yeah. And he's like, you got to spend this much money a year. And I was like, yeah. And he's like, and you're in Ireland. And I was like, yeah. And he's like, okay, we don't have anybody in Ireland. I was like, cool. And he's like, obviously we're not shipping at the moment. And I was like, nobody is. But we just, I had no money. I'll remember this. Like the shop was like making fucking nothing at the time, really. And I had no money, but the website had just gone live. And I was like, you can go to our website and look at your products on our website. So he did. And he's like, yeah, okay, that's cool. Yeah, let's do this. Okay. So it took about a month to get all the paperwork signed, and they are thorough. And I've signed so many NDAs. Like I know about every single Star Wars product that's to be released between now and the end of 2022, like.
What are they?
Oh yeah, I'll tell you afterwards. No, but like, there's so much stuff. And there's so much stuff that you have to sign NDAs and this and that and the other. And I was like, cool, let's do it. And we started to do it. And the very first order we got in, I fucked up. I ordered way too many of a product that nobody wanted.
You didn't know, though. That's like your first time. You're like a newcomer to this again.
Yeah, just like teething problems. And then the very next order was we'd reopened at this stage, and it was the PulseCon product.
The what?
So we were allowed to order that. PulseCon. So it was convention exclusives.
I gotcha.
Yeah, it was a convention exclusives. And like so much of this stuff arrived, and it was all over the shop. And I remember Bruno going, how much money did you spend? And what am I And I had to go that day. There was something on. It was something with my kids, and I can't remember what it was. I think it was like a school thing. And when I came back, like, everyone was so angry with me because they were like, where are we going to put all this stuff? And they weren't used to it and stuff. And pretty much it just all fucking sold. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay, we hit it. And then we just started working within the parameters of the Hasbro system. And now I would argue that we've become probably the best toy retailer in the country with what we do, and probably one of the best in Europe, I would say.
That's amazing.
And it's all like the money involved. If you had to tell me the money involved, the bills I'd be paying every week, and like be okay to pay them, like in March 2020, I'd be like, no way, And I mean, it is all relative, but it's also opened up and expanded a huge new client base to the shop.
Yeah. Well, and it's not like it's just money going out; it's money coming back in too.
Yeah, I mean, yesterday we sent out, I don't know, maybe 400 action figures
Like you
between
mailed
like,
them out.
yeah,
Was that
yeah.
just Mark Abnett's order?
No, it's his birthday today. Actually, Facebook told me, and it was like, "Wish Mark Abner a happy birthday," and I was like, "No," but
Happy birthday, Mark! It's going up
whatever.
3 days after this, but whatever.
Yeah, whatever. But no, like we sent out like 400 action figures yesterday, and like you're talking about the prices of the items that we sent out were like in between like 25 and 40 euros. So it's a bit different than sending out 400 comics.
Hmm.
The money involved and stuff, and that it's been great. So that's been one area where we've expanded, and because of that, because we started to get those customers in, we can then expand the lines. So we've expanded the stuff from NECA, we've expanded the stuff, like NECA's turtle line, NECA's movie line. McFarlane, luckily, just all of a sudden got the DC license at the time, and we're like selling tons of McFarlane toy stuff. We're just Mattel, Masters of the Universe. Holy shit! Like, I mean, I thought these figures were terrible and people go mad for them, but we said, now as I look at them, I'm kind of like they're growing on me, but I'm still not buying any of them. I almost bought Castle Grayskull, but no.
I think I've joked to you before that like Big Bang is a toy store now, and it's not true, but it's also not. It isn't true completely, but it is amazing how much you've shifted to toys in the last year.
But you know what that is as well? I had to let go. I had to let go of so much. And I had to turn around to Bruno and I was like, I don't have time to do graphic novels. I don't have time to go over previews. I don't have time. So he's really stepped up there and he's handling
So he's doing
all of
single
that.
issues and graphic novels now.
Yeah, I mean, I slide graphic novel reorders in here and there. Like he's like, we don't need this. I was like, I want it on my shelf. Um, but yeah, it's very rare. I mean, I still look through previews and stuff, and I kind of go, "Hey, this looks cool," but that's all him. And I mean, if you ask me, what was it somebody said to me? I was like, "Oh, you sold out, man," and I was like, "No, I didn't."
How would you sell out? I mean, unless you're talking about a specific figure, in which case the answer is yes. But
Yeah, I sell out of shit tons. Yeah, no, some people like. I mean, uh, you know what? If you work for free, you're always busy, and there's loads of people that like hit me up for advice on their books and hit me up for advice on industry stuff or hit me up, and this has become so busy for me and all encompassing that I don't. People ring me up and ask me questions. I'm like, I don't know. I don't know because I'm not familiar. I mean, we were talking before we went on air just about some comic stuff, and I was surprised I knew something you didn't because it's rare at the moment. Because I don't get to go on Twitter and look through comics Twitter. I
I
don't get
I try
I
not
don't
to.
get to, yeah, I know, and I'm much happier that I don't. Um,
I do think, really, really quick, I just want to say that I think that it's interesting that, getting even more busy as a comic shop owner for a lot of people, I would say is actually a bad thing. But given, I know you put a lot of stress on yourself trying to solve the comic industry's problems or
yeah,
at least the direct markets problems and stuff like that.
yeah.
And filling that with toys and like trying to build up that line, I think is actually a lot healthier for you, to be honest.
I'm a lot happier,
Yeah.
and the business, and that's what when someone was like, "Oh, you sold out," and I was like, "Yeah, well, when I stopped trying to fix the comic book industry, my business became a lot more profitable, and I became a lot happier."
That's crazy.
So it's like, it's almost like there's a direct connection between those things. And I was talking to you, I was one of the very lucky ones. I was talking to like Steve Anderson, and you know
Yeah.
how busy that guy is. Yeah, me and Steve were on the phone for like an hour the other night, um, and I'm amazed because he's normally like doing like seven different things at once.
He probably
But
was
like
doing seven different things at
he
once.
probably was doing, yeah, yeah. But like I mean, you know, he's a great guy to spit ideas off, and and
Wait, really
and,
quick.
and
Wait, really quick. For
yeah,
listeners that don't know, Steve Anderson owns Third Eye Comics, which is how many stores does he have now? Four, six,
six,
six.
six,
That's what I thought.
six, and like yeah, so he's got six stores, and we were talking about stuff. But he was talking to me about action figures.
Hmm.
And he's like, about a year ago, I was like, Steve, start ordering this stuff and it'll sell. And he's like, really? And I was like, yeah. And I'm not saying I'm responsible for it. I'm saying that like we talk to each other about different ideas. But that guy sells everything. I mean, you'd be talking to him and going like, how's business? And he was like, well, it's the kids are going back to school, so I just got in loads of like stationery,
Hmm.
cool stationery, and like he's always on the cusp of he always goes at the right time. He gets in and he gets out, and then he goes off and he does something else. But there's a reason why that guy is, one of the biggest retailers around at the moment, and he is a brilliant businessman. But he's one of the few people that I feel like I can talk to and say anything to that isn't hitting me up for like their own gain as
Hmm.
well. So it was just like, there's lots of people who I'll talk to about comics with and stuff like that. But just once I went off and started this new project, I felt like I was doing something for myself, and it
Hmm.
was cool,
Yeah.
you know. And it's enjoyable, and it's enjoyable to diversify. And it's the same with what Bruno's done in the store with manga.
Hmm.
I mean, manga's insane. It's just we can't get it. We can, and when we do get it, we keep it in stock. A few people weren't happy that we changed around the store layout, and those shelves that you used to see for new comics, they're not for new comics anymore. They're all for manga.
Hmm. I thought
And
some
we
of
have,
them were dedicated to action figures too.
um, no, so I've taken the old manga shelves, dedicated those to action figures. I've taken the new release shelves and dedicated that to manga because comic books in store are the least best performing off the rack seller that we have.
And now, a message from Bad Idea. Bad Idea is over. But they're still advertising, so I don't know what's going on. I guess it's another bad idea from Bad Idea. And now, back to the show. Well, okay, and so really quick, before we get into that, I think it's important to clarify for listeners that it's not because you're not selling comics, it's because your customers changed, right? Like how they behave.
Yeah, totally. So our client base, we turned them into mail order customers by accident.
During the pandemic.
Yeah, because everything had to go mail order, and with Comic Hub, it was so easy for them that when we reopened to the public, none of those people came back, but they're all still our customers. The people that came into store and came back, it was all new money and new customers. And we were like, okay, and we looked at what they were buying, and we looked at, the different areas of shop that were performing well, because the areas of the store, it's real estate,
Yeah.
and I mean, like, if I've got 8 shelves that are underperforming, but I got 3 shelves that are overperforming, I'm going to put the stock from the 3 shelves onto the 8 shelves, but yeah, our client base has changed, and just new comic books in store do not sell after Thursday.
Right.
So there was like 5 days a week that they were not not selling for, but they were there, and then the majority of it is all switched online, and we keep picking up new customers all the time for comic books.
But they're still online.
It's all online, everything. There's like 10 or 12 people now who once a week, whatever day they want to do it, they're putting in orders for like 200-300 euros worth of back issues. These 10 or 12 people, because our entire catalog is on our website. Occasionally you'll get people coming in going, all these comics are on your website. Where are they? And we're like, they're in the back. If you tell us what you want, we'll go and get them, and we'll go and get them. But um, it's completely different. Comic book customers now are online, and I've argued this with certain retailers as well, who are like, yeah, I want it to be a customer experience. I don't want a website. Man, if you've got a comic book shop, get a website
I mean, I don't.
because it's where it's going.
Well, even beyond that, though, it's just like, why limit your customer base just because you want some? I mean, the people who want that in store experience will take that in store experience, but there's other customers who don't want that. And
And there's customers very far away that cannot get in store, but would still like to buy your products.
like Alaska, who knew?
Yeah.
I do want to ask, you said that, you're going to check stock in the back. Do you have like a copy of Giant Size X-Men #1 in the back by chance?
The mythical back.
No,
Yeah.
no, you don't. You
No.
don't. Okay, okay. But I mean, I do think that's really interesting because, I told you before that like when I talked to Patrick Brower from Challengers Comics and
Yeah.
Conversation in Chicago,
Wonderful retailer.
wonderful retailer, but he said that like their customers have shifted to basically new release days and it's really upfront. It used to be people at the end of their workday would go to the comic shop before going home. Now it's
Yeah.
like they're coming when they open. And
Yeah.
I do think it's really interesting that not only are your customers not only have they switched to an online experience, but they've also switched their behavior in such a condensed and narrow fashion. I mean, do you have any idea why? Like, it's 5 days of blank now?
Yeah. And I think it's because the services. Um, I'm not talking about the service that our service is great to our customers. I think the service is great. You pick out your comics, you pay your bill, it's with you at your house the next day, normally, if you're in Ireland,
Hmm.
Um, they can scroll through, all the new releases there, or next week's releases, or they can put in orders before FOC. They can scroll through our entire back catalog. They can request for stuff to be specially ordered in for them. I mean, we've basically just given them all the ordering tools a retailer has, but it's just customer facing.
Hmm.
And they've gotten used to it real well. There's customers that can use our app and website way better than I can, 100%, because that's the way they are. But like I mean, I had this same conversation with another retailer recently, which is he was giving out about speculators. And I was like, well, why don't you try and turn them into customers?
Yeah.
And he was like, what do you mean? And I was like, if they want to buy 10 copies of something and they order it by FOC, order them in 10 copies and sell it to them.
Yeah.
And he's like, but then they're going to go and sell it for more money. I was like, it doesn't matter what people do with the things that we sell them after. If we get, like, it doesn't matter, right? I don't get it. I don't care. Like, and I see it with the action figure guys. There's guys that come in with you know, their children and get their children to buy like a one pair or things like that. I know what they're doing, but I've also factored that in to the orders and things like that. There's some people who I will literally turn around and go, "No, you're getting one of these, and that's it," because I've only got enough for the market. But if there's like, if Hasbro still have figures in stock and these guys want figures and they come to me and they say, can you get me more of this? Well, yeah, I'm a retailer. I'm going to go and order more and I'm going to sell them more. But it doesn't matter. Like, it's not our business. Once we look after everybody properly, and if somebody wants, if the market gets their figures and if 10 people want the, if 10 people want the brand new Star Wars wave and we sort them out and there's still stuff on the shelf and people come in once a week and buy a different figure, that it's fine. It doesn't matter. And it's the same with comics. It doesn't matter if they, like, it doesn't matter if they want to resell it. It doesn't matter whatever. They're customers. And if you can turn speculators into customers, that's brilliant because they're going to spend a lot of money. If you refuse customers for speculating, then you're not going to make any money.
Well, and I think that there's two sides to that whole speculator flipper coin. It's like I'm in some ways not fond of that whole behavior, but that's because, no slander to my shop, but they're not the best at trying to convert those people into customers. They just come in and they eat up all of the inventory because some random character is on the cover of X-Force, and next thing you know, I don't read X-Force because of that.
Yeah, but that's wrong.
Right, exactly. So, but the thing is like, there's no reason, like, if you can get them to pre-order by FOC
Yeah,
and you can adjust your orders by that number, then
yeah.
there's no harm to that. That's you
No.
profiting off of it, and then them.
Okay, yeah, but it's like your X Force thing, right? I order 10 X Forces and for the shelf. And the night before it goes on sale, all of a sudden a new character is revealed.
Hmm.
And somebody comes in first thing and buys those 10 copies. Yeah?
Yeah,
Yeah, that would never happen because we wouldn't
you
do
would
that.
limit it to one.
We would limit it to one if it was hot or whatever. But on the website as well, like everything's limited to one
Mm-hmm.
with comics. We limit it to one per customer on the website. Anyway, if you want more, you have to get in touch with us. Once it's on sale on the racks. But if it's before FOC and you want 10 copies of whatever, we'll order you your 10 copies. That's just what we do. But and I don't mean that's what we do. I'm in a kind of like, you know,
Dismissive way. I get it.
yeah. There's a lot of people that like. I mean, I'm in those Facebook groups that you won't go into.
The speculator ones or which ones?
Yeah, of course I'm in those groups. I don't comment in them, but I see the stuff and I see the lengths that people go to because they're gonna get rich off of stuff. And it's insane. I read about these people going, "Oh, I had to drive to 4 different comic book stores today," and and like they were 60 miles apart each, but I got like 4 copies of this, and I'm like, how much money did you spend in gasoline?
Yeah.
Did you have to take the day off work for this today? I mean, to me, it's crazy.
Man, I'd have to drive thousands of miles to go to 4 comic shops. That would be exhausting. I would not drive. I have to drive to Canada.
It would probably be quicker to like get on a plane and come here.
Oh, 100%. Well, it would, it would be pretty comparable. It would be faster just to fly to Seattle, but I don't know. I mean, I do think it's interesting. It's like, God, I'm trying to remember. I think it was Patrick and Challengers that was also working to try to convert customers. Oh, no, it was Brandon Schatz at Variant Edition.
Yeah,
and
he's a great retailer too.
Yeah, exactly. And they're him and Danica are trying to convert those customers into desirable consumer behaviors for them as retailers. And like there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, that's like any customer. It's like getting a normal, like a non-flipper speculator person, just like a person like me who's just there to read. It's like getting them to sign up for a pull list. It's like it's the game of being a comic book retailer is trying to mitigate variables and trying to make it so consumer behavior is predictable so you don't run out of inventory, right? That's all you're doing with the speculators too, is you're just trying to get them to pre-order, and if they get their 10 copies and their variant covers or whatever, then everybody wins.
Yeah, and like it's one of those things as well where variant covers, it's one of those things where like me and Bruno, we've just changed our behavior about that, especially, which is like people will go, I want this it might be like a 1 in 50. We're like, well, we don't order 50 of that book. So if you want that cover, you can order the 50 copies and we'll give you that one for free.
Damn.
Not one person has ever taken us up on that.
But they have for the 1 in 5,000 covers.
Oh, all those. Yeah, it's insane, isn't it? I don't know.
It's so weird. But I mean, I do want to point out really quick, I could be wrong about this, but I mean, it's not like speculation is it's not like a dominant part of your customer base, though.
No, not at all. There's like 10 guys. And I've spoken to like pretty much all of them. And like they're all really nice people. Mm-hmm. I mean, I found some of their eBay pages and things like that, and I kind of balk at like the prices they sell some things at. But I mean, if people are out there, I mean, that's the other thing. We don't, if people want to buy it, that's cool. And if these guys are happy enough, I mean, like, there's things that are, we do like the trade paperback exclusives, and I'm like this guy bought like it was €10, and it was on eBay like within 2 hours for like 40, and I still had like 100 copies in stock, and I was like, that's insane. But he sold it within like an hour. Yeah. It's just like, wow, okay, but I can't stop that. But I could, if I have like 120 copies of a trade paperback in stock and he buys one, I'm not going to tell him, I'm not going to hold it back and go, are you going to sell this on eBay? All those people are quite nice. There's things we won't do. Like some of them now have started asking, like we sell bags and boards, but we're not going to sell them shippers. Like you call them Gemini mailers, we call them shippers.
I don't know what the hell that is.
It's just it's a cardboard thing cutting away to protect comics in the mail. A guy was like, yeah, I want to start buying these off you. How much are they? And I was like, they're not for sale.
That's hilarious. I get why they're doing it because they want to protect the comics when they ship them themselves, but at the same time, like,
Absolutely, but we've been asked by the manufacturer and distributor like not to sell to customers.
understandably.
They've asked us now not to, because I think this is a thing that started in the States, because the speculation seems to be such a massive problem there in a lot of stores. But we're told very much, yeah. I mean, we send out the books and that, and if people use them to resend things, I can't stop them, but we don't sell them.
Yeah,
You know,
understandably.
but it's a weird thing. I don't get it, but every retailer is different, and I'm in a lot of retailer forums and stuff, and there's been some amazing conversations recently. Because beforehand, I always used to think that we were like a small shop. I always used to think that we like like everyone everyone must have made way more money than us, and things like that. But then I started talking to other retailers and stuff, and we're a pretty busy store.
Hmm.
We're a pretty big account, and we're it's pretty amazing to see that, for years I thought that we were like this like small comic shop in Ireland, but like, the numbers that we do and the inventory that we shift, we are really busy compared to a lot of other stores across the world. Um, and some retailers have spoken to me about this, and about, oh, how do you do that? How do you do this? And it is things like Comic Hub, and it is the app, and it is turning speculators into customers, and it is turning customers who come in to buy off the shelf into pull list customers and stuff. And it is turning like action figure customers into like returning customers. And it is about the service we provide and the website that we have, and stuff like that. But it is also about how we do things. And I
Hmm.
think that is pretty different too. But a lot of retailers, that article that you did with Bruno and Jared, and all the retailers and stuff, um, it was interesting to read the parallels between what's going right for them and what's going wrong for them with us. But also, we have problems that they don't have, they have problems that we don't have, and
Absolutely.
things. Yeah, but I mean, this is, if and I hate saying this, but the pandemic was probably really good for comics,
Hmm.
because I think that all of us are busy afterwards. Well, not all of us, but the majority of us are quite busy after it, because I think that the pandemic gave people time to go back and look at things that they really liked. And whether that is, you know, buying 10 copies of X Force #1, or whatever, um, or whether it's playing with toys, or whether it's collecting posters, or whether it's like, I mean, or like Steve Anderson selling vinyl now.
Yeah.
I think that that's been quite good for our sort of business. I do appreciate that there's plenty of businesses out there where the pandemic has been like devastating and detrimental. We're just, you know, I think once people adapted and started to get back on track, I think we benefited. Um, but do you know what way I mean?
Yeah, no, totally.
It's,
No,
yeah,
absolutely. I think that there's a number of things that did. I mean, one of them was, like, for example, when Diamond closed, it gave everyone, I mean, I think in some ways, like, not being able to be open to customers, which you all were, compared to American stores, closed a lot more than our stores were.
yeah,
And I think
8 months,
that time
I
off,
think.
it's like if that hadn't happened, you probably wouldn't have done the action figure thing. And that's something that's fundamentally changed the present and future of your business. And it's because like people get so mired in the day-to-day operations that they can't make large scale change. And I think that the shops that were, I don't know if aggressive is the right word, but were opportunistic about the situation that was presented to them, were
Yeah,
able to make some real positive gains for themselves. I mean, like, look at Eitan Manhoff at Cape and Cowl Comics in Oakland. His shop was not open until like 2 weekends ago to customers, a year and a half. And somehow during that same time, he literally doubled the size of his store because he was managed to be successful enough. But I do want to talk about one thing really quick.
yeah,
This is a side effect of all of this though. So you add a line that's more busy, you have to do more mail order than ever. So
yeah.
equally busy. Like your floor has been at the very minimum. Your floor has stayed the same in terms of the prospects, economic prospects of Big Bang, but your ceiling has been raised dramatically. With
Yeah.
that, and with the fact that you're doing more mail order, is I would say, a commensurate or maybe even larger increase in the amount of work you have to do. Is mail order like killing you guys?
No, it was at the start. Yeah, it was because officially we were told we weren't busy enough for collection. So we would have to
You mean
stop.
like the click and whatever the hell that is? Like the one they stop by the
No, no,
door?
no, 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 no. For the mail, it was for like the post
Oh, I
company,
gotcha.
the
Yeah.
mail to come and collect. So, and we were arguing the point and arguing the point and arguing the point. But like, I called in every favor of every friend that had a van or a Jeep or some days a car, or some days it was me hawking it down on trolleys down the post office. But eventually, it was really funny. So we met the post office agreed to start collecting. So a van was going to come, and we were like, cool. And the van came for 3 days, and then the van guy said he wasn't coming anymore because we were putting too much stuff in the van. So now every day about 3 o'clock, a truck. We've cages in work, so we fill the cages throughout the day in work. So and then the truck comes and we give them the cages. But yeah, it is. It's a different labor thing. Like yesterday, we were so busy with that action figure order. Kieran, who works pretty closely with me on this stuff, he was just in the storeroom for 8 hours. He did not see daylight, and I kept on bringing him in like cups of tea and just checking on him and stuff. But that guy did not see daylight. He sent out so many boxes of and packaging. And the thing about it is, the problem is Kieran is a massive fucking nerd, right? And he'd have no problem with me saying it. But Kieran loves his real high end collectibles.
Hmm.
So he's got this thing that whenever we send out collectibles, he likes to do them in the way he'd like to receive them.
Oh my god.
Whereas me and Bruno are gonna fucking wrap that shit up in bubble wrap and fuck it in a box with like, loads of packing peanuts to tape it and off it goes. But Kieran, he's like, I mean, the man is brilliant at making things fit in boxes in a way that they don't get damaged and stuff, and takes it personally if anything he sends out like it doesn't fit a customer's criteria, should we say? So like he was in there for 8 hours yesterday, and he did it. He did the entire thing in one day. Um, so in that regard, our jobs changed. My job's changed an awful lot, where I probably am spending too much time on the shop floor, when I should be. My role has become more and more and more a kind of like buying role and a kind of promotional role. Bruno is probably spending way too much time on the shop floor, but we have to do that as well.
Yeah. It's a
But like in a
relationship
year,
business.
yeah, but in a year's time, I don't know if we're going to even have the time to do that. I mean, I don't know where we're going. I mean, like, this is going to be the busiest year that we've ever had in store.
Aren't you looking
By,
for another employee?
oh God, we just hired another employee,
Oh,
didn't
did
we?
you? Oh, congrats.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like, I think it's their second week. I don't know. See, and that's the thing as well. Normally, when we have new employees, I would like take time and go, "This is how I do it, and this is it." But I haven't had time, so it's all been Bruno and stuff doing it. I don't have time, and I mean, every day I should probably take I should probably take 2 weeks off just to sit in the back office and actually get everything in order and put it up on the site and things like that. But I don't have it. I've had all the information for it, like Super 7 Power Rangers and G.I. Joe figures for like 2 weeks, and they're still not on our website because I have not had time to sit down and put them on our website.
I think it's hilarious that your version of time off is sitting in the back putting stuff on your website. That's not time off.
Yeah, I know. That discussion came up today. So I told Bruno, I said, I need to take a month off and do all this and get this done. And he just looked at me and he was like, that's not time off. And I was like, well, it's time off from the shop. And he's like, but you're still in the shop. You're just in the back of the shop. And then what's going to happen is somebody's going to ask a question. I'm not going to know the answer. I'm going to knock on the door and I'm going to be like, do the Transformers RED figures actually transform?
Do they?
And no.
Ah,
So
that's
this,
trash.
this That's an example tonight when someone was like, "Oh, this Soundwave looks cool. Does it transform?" And Bruno went, "Yeah, it does." And he's like, "Actually, wait a minute." And he came in, "Does this transform?" And I was like, "No." And he's like, "What's the point?" I was like, "It
Yeah,
looks cool."
a
So,
transformer that doesn't transform is a useless transformer. It's not
it's
even a
an
transformer
action
at that point. It's just
It's
a
an Action Master. There was a whole line of Transformers called Action Masters in the 90s that didn't transform.
well, that's still stupid. That's probably why I stopped following Transformers.
Well, you see, this is the thing. Like, I don't get people that buy Transformers and actually transform them. They look cooler as robots. If you want a toy of a car, go out and get a toy car.
I'll tell you what, I have my OG, like the original Optimus Prime in my hand right
He,
now, if you can
he's
see it.
missing his hands.
Well, whatever. Hands are overrated anyways. He's a car. He's a truck. He doesn't need to be that. Anyways, but yeah, I mean, I guess I get your point. At the same time, this thing is so old, it doesn't want to transform anymore. So in this
Is it
case,
real?
he stays, what's that?
Is it real?
What do you mean, is it real?
Is it a real? Is it a bootleg or is it real?
This is the one I got when I was a kid, and like in the original
I
box.
don't know. Maybe your parents lied to you. I don't know.
Oh my God, I can't believe you're slandering my parents on the podcast. This is terrible. But anyways, yeah, I mean, I get it. I mean, because like if it's just a truck, then it's just what's the difference between it and a truck? Yo, everybody. I want to take a quick second to talk about Macroverse. Macroverse is a next-gen mobile comics app, with its tap story format making comics feel totally native on mobile devices, which you can experience over 45 series and 400 episodes, with more launching all the time. It's a perfect time to try it out, too. Many of the most popular titles like Hex 11, Dead Town, Glitch, and more are free for a limited time only, so download the app for iOS or Android and binge away. Oh, and keep an eye out on macroverse.com for some major updates on new creators, new series, and new features that bring real collectability to digital comics in a new way. Massive things are coming. If you love making, reading, and or collecting comics, you won't want to miss what Macroverse is launching this summer. And now, back to the show. I think it's interesting. So you have reduced the new comic space by, let's say, roughly 50.
Fuck yeah! See, I sold out again. Yeah.
Yeah. But so you did that. I'm interested. Are you selling more comics or fewer comics than you were before the pandemic?
Way more.
Yeah, I mean that's the interesting thing is like I think it was Bruno that put the thread up on Twitter about like making the changes and people don't be so shocked and everything. I easily could have seen people take that and read that as comics are suffering, whatever, blah blah blah, and that's the interesting
Is the
thing.
very thing we tell people not to do.
Well, I didn't say that they did. I'm just saying they could have.
Oh, loads of people did.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's because they're idiots. But no offense to all of you who I'm sure some of you are lovely people, but come on, but I mean, I think that's interesting. Now, are you trades and graphic novels same amount of space?
Yeah.
Well, I guess manga is part of that, so it's probably more.
No, manga's its own thing. In terms of like the stores. Sorry, also, I have the window open now because I'm smoking one of those cigarettes.
Oh, okay.
So if you hear,
do you still have customers coming in buying trades at random? I mean, because like trades,
oh fuck yeah,
trade and graphic novel customers always have behaved differently than new comic customers, right?
yeah, they come in, they stare at you, they walk around the store, and then they pick up all their books.
Yeah, there you go. The staring at you part sounds nice.
Yeah, no, that's only some of them. Yeah, no, I mean, you know, we still get people that come in, and you know, it's just like a bookstore. People come in and they browse.
Yeah.
You know, I had this really fun couple of kids in the other day. Well, to me they're kids, but they were probably like over 18. I don't know. And they came up from Tipperary because all the travel restrictions have been lifted in Ireland in a few weeks. So they were like, "We're going to the comic book store." I'd never seen them before, but it turns out that they'd made like online orders.
Mm-hmm.
So and I'd emailed them and like had banter with them when they would ask questions and stuff and so they were standing there smiling at me and I was like, "Hello." Well, I say smiling, they had masks on, but they were like real kind of, you know, into being in the store, into like looking at, you know, like talking to us. And they started like saying stuff as if we knew each other. Now the masks can be difficult in that regard, just with like, do I recognize this person? Do I not? But I had never met these people in my life. But they were good fun. But they bought like between them, I don't know, maybe like €850 worth of like graphic novels, and then
Damn.
Yeah.
These are highfalutin children.
Well, see, this is the thing.
I know they're like 22 or something.
Probably, but ever since we reopened, I just genuinely thought that we would never take in cash again. We've taken in so much cash, especially from kids.
Yeah. How do kids
Um,
have cash? This is weird. I never have cash.
we took in a lot. We took in a lot, so much that we got into trouble with.
Oh, they thought you were drug dealing?
No, I tried to get rid of a lot of fivers,
Oh, okay.
like 5 euro notes, because it was like, how the fuck do we have like 200 fivers? I was like, let's go buy things with these fivers. But that's my neighbors. If you hear that, everyone at home. But yeah, we got into so much trouble because I was like trying to pay for everything with this, but nobody wants that many fivers.
Mhm.
Nobody wants, you can't lodge them in machines. It kills the machines. You can't, whatever. So I was like, no, let's get rid of all the fivers. But we've taken in a lot of cash. And that's the thing about the in-store demographic as well. That's changed immeasurably because so many kids are in buying comics, thanks to like things like Crunchyroll. They're buying manga,
Mm-hmm.
or thanks to Marvel Unlimited, or torrents, or whatever way they do things. They're buying, they're coming in. Bruno has sold so many fucking copies of Civil War and House of M and the MCU shows and things like that. Like, it's insane,
Mm-hmm.
and it's all kids. In-store money's kids, and online money isn't. But there's just more of it than ever.
When you say kids, is this like the they could be over 18 version of kids, or is this actual
No,
kids?
no, we've got a lot of children coming in buying comics. A lot. Teen Titans Go is going through like some massive resurgence in store. Kids are in buying everything, but we're selling. I think before we left today, I think another case of Civil War trades arrived because we
Oh.
sold out the last case of Civil War trades last week.
You know what Patrick told me?
What did Patrick tell you?
Patrick, he's been doing this for a long time, right? He said that he thinks that Invincible is the biggest driver of sales in terms of adaptations that he's seen since Batman 1989. Have you guys seen a lot of Invincible?
Yes.
I thought that
Shit
was
ton.
quite the compliment. I mean, Batman 1989. Needless to say, that's been a minute. So like that's
Yeah.
basically like puts it on par with like the greatest driver of sales in terms of adaptations ever.
Yeah, like so many kids. Look, I still had a lot of those like image firsts of Invincible. So like once the Invincible TV show hit, I just started like giving those away to kids who came in asking about Invincible, and they all came back and bought stuff. They all bought Invincible. The compendiums, Jesus, what I would give for some Invincible compendiums at the moment. But it's kind of changed things as well, because beforehand Invincible always for us sold way better in the hardcovers.
Right.
But now, like, I mean, I as I was saying, Bruno is doing most of the book stuff, like 99.9% of it, and we got a massive reorder in the other day. And it was really, really fun to unpack it, because I wasn't unpacking things in ones and twos. I was unpacking 20s and 30s.
That's insane.
I was like, there's 30 copies of Watchmen. There's 30 copies of this. There's 30, all those. It's just long may it last. I know that Patrick kind of thinks that it's gonna go back down a little bit. But
I mean, I think everyone thinks that. I mean, it's not that it's necessarily a bubble. It's just like, how do you sustain that high? I mean, do you think it'll return to the way that things were?
no, I think when it does calm down, I think it's going to be a lot higher than before.
Across the board, or just comics?
Yeah. Well, both, everything.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, I think that our new normal is got, like, I mean, it's so funny. Me and Bruno were only talking about this the other day. We had our quietest day in the month last Monday. Yeah. You have to understand as well that Irish people are not used to good weather,
Mhm.
right? We are not used to it. So when the weather is good, it's like, everybody's out getting sunburnt immediately, and stores aren't busy. We had our quietest Monday.
I live in Alaska. I have to say, I understand that about as well as anybody could.
Okay, well, we had our quietest Monday, and that, quietest day in a long time. And that quietest day, I would have been super happy with on a Saturday before the pandemic.
Mm-hmm. That's
Like, You know,
I've seen some businesses like that. I mean, obviously restaurants are different, but there's this place in town that makes amazing Mexican food that's like a just kind of a food truck type thing. And they
mhm.
said that this summer their worst day would have been their would beat their very best day like 2 years ago.
Yeah,
I mean, just
yeah,
absolutely crush it.
yeah, yeah. I mean, like, and what's funny is that Wednesdays are no longer our best day.
What is Saturday?
Tuesday.
What?
Yeah.
That's random.
No, it's not because that's when all the comic books are in and people pay for their sides and their mail orders on Comic Hub.
Oh, so that's when you check in the books that are going to be out on Wednesday?
Uh, yeah, we send the alert arrivals.
Hmm.
So everyone that's got a pull list or an order gets an email, and they can just click a button and pay for it there and then, and the money just all comes in.
I mean, that's kind of still Wednesday then, though, right? I mean, it's
It's
not.
Wednesday. Well, it's Wednesday's product, but it's we're getting paid for it on Tuesday, and they're coming and they're collecting it on Wednesday, or
Yeah.
it's getting mailed out on Wednesday.
And that's reflective of the change in consumer behavior.
Yeah, and it's amazing. But I mean, yesterday was our busiest day that we've had since we reopened, and that was just because of the Hasbro thing. And that was a nice feeling.
Yeah.
Uh, because because the way the system works as well, I could break down what was in store versus what we sent out, and what we sent out was 5 times what we made in store.
I think the interesting thing is like you look at some of the things that you've done, like you've really focused on action figures. You've been a sellout like a monster. And then you like created like you've done Comic Hub and have the website where people can order and everything like that. And in some ways those are kind of like this sounds more intense than I probably mean it, but like anti-traditionalist ways of thinking for comic shops. It is not the way
Yeah,
that most shops think. But the interesting thing is like everything about what you're saying sounds like at a bare minimum stuff that will stabilize you as a business and at best significantly raises the ceiling. I don't understand why this type of stuff doesn't happen more often.
well, if you had said to me a year and a half ago that I was going to take down all the comics in store and the new comic shelves and devote it to other products, I'd be like, you're crazy, you're insane. But um, that would have been me thinking about the perception, and I can't do that because comics are so important and stuff. Comics are still just as important, absolutely.
They've just shifted.
But I would, yeah, and it has. And there's loads of things that we keep talking about that we want to do, and projects that we want to finish off for the store. And people have asked us, will we run more events online, because we did a lot of signings and stuff. And they're all great ideas, and they're all things that I'd absolutely love to do. I just genuinely don't have the time for this. I was late coming back to you, not coming. Dave's not standing at the door with his arms open waiting for me. I don't mean literally come. I know, it'd be cool actually. But no, I was late getting back here to talk to you, and then realizing that I had to like download Skype to talk to you again and stuff, because you're the only person that I've ever talked to on Skype, I think. But no, I was late tonight because I was doing the Walmart con stuff tonight.
I didn't even know that was a thing.
Oh man, it just sounds wrong, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah. So Walmart have an online event. It's called Walmart Con. It's where they do all their exclusives. But because I'm fan channel and I'm outside North America, I'm allowed to carry all US store exclusives. So I get Target and Walmart and Best Buy and all of those things all under one roof and stuff. Like, I see the lengths that people go to, and me and Sean Kirkham have spoken about this at length. Like, there might be one G.I. Joe classified. I sent you to Target for these things a while
Yeah,
ago.
you did. And you know what?
Yeah.
I found out G.I. Joe fans are insane.
Yeah, because yeah, I know. But then I got this gig, and now Hasbro just send me all of these things straight away. So my customers don't have to drive 4 hours in between cities hoping that the Beachhead action figure is actually in stock that they can see on the Target app, because I got 100 of them, but or the Cobra Vipers or things like that. But I'm allowed to carry all those things. So Walmart have this
Convention
thing.
rolling this stuff out.
It's what?
Convention that rolls that stuff out, like kind of premieres it.
Yeah, it's an online thing where they release it at a certain time, and their figures only available in Walmart. So I had to put up all the Walmart exclusives tonight. I was meant to do it earlier, but I was too busy. So I put them all up tonight, and I didn't even get them all up. I only put up the Star Wars ones because the Star Wars customers were like really harassing me for when these things would go online, because the Star Wars and FOMO is a big thing. But that's why I was delayed. But it's been, it's been interesting to see this because I've changed tactics as well with the way we handle pre-orders and stuff, and it's really helped the business. Um, when the store closed to the public last March, I had a stock room full of promises. I had, thousands and thousands and thousands of euros worth of books in pull lists and toys that people had on hold and were definitely going to pick up. And I was like, I've paid for all of this,
Right.
and I don't have any of the money. So like we changed the way we do that. And now when I run, I send out a thing called an action figure blast. People pre-order, we get the money in. I mean, the business is a lot secure. The turnover is fantastic. The profit margin, it really, it's a different sort of way of doing things. But it's one that if you had said to me back in March of 2020, like, you're going to take down these shelves for new comics and this is how you're going to handle customer orders, I would have said no way, because people would hate me, or people won't shop with us, or people will think I'll have sold out. Well, you know what? I was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the way we're operating now, we're way more profitable. We're way more secure. People are very happy with the service. You know, it doesn't matter if I don't have the latest issue of Batman on the shelf for a week.
Mm-hmm.
If we sell all of our copies on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and we're not going to sell any more copies, even if we sell one over the weekend, that's €4. Whereas in the space that Batman took up on those shelves, I can fit like 3 manga volumes that I continuously have to restock. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it just makes more sense for us that way.
You know what this
But yeah,
reminds me of? It reminds me of when I visited you guys, and I think you told me this before, but we had talked about how you kind of always envisioned Big Bang as like looking like if you rotated all the inventory out and it became a shoe store, it would still work because that's
yeah,
the way that you did things. And it's interesting because in some ways, the last year has been you manifesting that idea into reality because it went from a pure, mostly a comic shop to something slightly different, and it still works.
yeah. But I mean,
It's still a comic
I don't.
shop.
I've been in some dungeons, man.
I know.
I've been in some, and I've been in some weird ass places that I don't get why this industry gets a pass all the time. I've been
I
in
think it's
some.
changing. I think it's changing.
No, I think now it's changing. Absolutely. Because more often than not, if I'm in a new city or a new country, I think it's changed. How do I say this? I think it's changing way more outside of the US than it is within the US. That's my opinion,
Sure.
right? Um, that could also be that I just know lots of like old retailers because I've been doing this so long. Um, but yeah, so for anyone that doesn't know what Dave's talking about, is I have this theory that if you own a store and if you sell comics, it shouldn't matter that there's comics in there. You could take all of your comic book inventory out and sell anything, whether it's clothing or toasters or shoes,
Lots of
and it
action
should still
figures.
look like, yeah, it should still look like a store. Um, and I've asked retailers this before, that if you took all of your inventory out of it and you started selling shoes, would you go and would you buy your shoes there? And they go, no. And I go, why? And they go to like Foot Locker, or they go here and there. And I'm like, why? Because those stores would look better. And I'm like, right, so why should people go and shop in your store?
Right.
And I get it. There's been a lot of retailer conversations in some of the retailer forums recently, kind of on the lines of this, that have been really interesting for me and Bruno to see, because we're obviously thousands of miles away. But I do think you're right that I do think it's changing, but I also think the fact is that like it's like when we used to do the weekly sales reports on Twitter. I mean, those things took hours,
Oh yeah.
but it also helped sell a lot more books. It helped sell a lot more books in stores all across the world. Not our store. We'd sold our stuff, you know, but I would argue that we helped comics in that regard, you know, all over the world. But I think also as well when we came along and did what we did, then the next people, you know, people took notice of us, and they were like, right, I want to open up a comic book store, but I want it to be like them, or I want my own twist on what they do. So I do think that like as time goes on, it does get better, and I think that things will look more professional stuff. I mean, to a degree, I've been in some wacky ass like, and I know we use the word dungeon, like some of them literally being underground dungeons, but like not many. But I've been in some, you know, I've been in some weird comic book stores, and I've been in some, you know, it does. I'm going to argue that if you put me in charge of one of these weird ass dungeony comic book stores, it would probably perform all right because of the, you know, the things that I would do in there and the vibe that we would want to have extend there. Um, because there's, you know, there's a business. We're a business, but there's a vibe in our store, and we've always tried to foster the community around us and stuff, and we've always tried to you know, make it as inclusive as possible. But eventually, as well, we get so busy doing business stuff that we can't do those things.
Mm-hmm.
So I do think it's great that, like, I mean, there's been books launched in our store where all the contributors to it have met through the store.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty awesome. It hasn't happened in a long time because of COVID. You know, there's been parties, there's been screenings, there's been events, there's been signings, there's been charity stuff. But like, you know, one of the big things that we have on our mind at the moment is like, you know, how are we going to do free comic book day? We can't get 2,000 people to come to our store. It would be completely irresponsible.
Mm-hmm.
So we got to, you know, we've got a couple of ideas on how we're going to do it, and we have to shake things up. And it's great when things happen that force you to shake things up, whether it's changing the layout of your store or, you know, and appearing to sell out to certain creators or publishers or, you know, readers. That's fine. It doesn't matter. People can think I sold out as much as they want because I'm still going to be here at the end of it.
Yeah. Okay. 2 last questions. One, I think I have a pretty good idea of what it's going to be, generally speaking. But what's like, I mean, tying into all this, what's the biggest thing you've learned from the past year?
Wow. That's.
I mean, because like I feel like you already knew that you needed to be flexible and that you needed to adjust if things came up. But I mean, is it just like trust your instincts? I don't know. It seems like you've probably learned a lot in the last year.
Yeah, but the way I would phrase it wouldn't be as positive as you.
Oh,
like trust your instincts. Yeah. I would say know your worth and don't undervalue yourself.
that's generally good advice.
Yeah, and I mean, I could have spouted that off 5 years ago, but that doesn't necessarily mean I believed it, or enacted it, or, you know, I gave too many people a free pass. Yeah.
Okay, last question. I'm gonna make you very mad because you briefly alluded to this when we talked on the phone the other day. Do you like the New World Order of Big Bang more than what it was before? Like, do you like it post shift, post all the changes you've made, more than where you were February 2020?
I absolutely love my fucking job. I love it. I love it now.
And John, I'm not putting you on blast, but we talked a lot before. You seem so much happier than you did before. No offense. It's not like you were terribly.
I 100% absolutely am. I pay no attention to comic book bullshit because I don't have time for it. I genuinely really enjoy comic books for the sake of comic books. I have no fucking idea if the person who designed the latest Transformers action figure is an asshole or not, because it's a real fucking industry. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
It's a real. It's so big that nobody knows. Whereas with comics, I tried too hard, and I tried too hard to like help it and save it and things like that, and it burned me out.
I know it
Comics
did.
burned me out. This has been the greatest vacation ever, has been diversifying the business, and luckily, I've got a really good crew that work for me. Bruno is not only my best friend, he is the best business partner, manager, whatever you want to call him, that I have going. I totally trust his judgment and decisions with the shop, because I mean, this is how up to date I am with comics. Yeah,
Hmm.
I just finished Zdarsky's first Daredevil trade. I read
Oh,
issue one that came out. Yeah, so I've got all that
it's
to read
good.
now. It's really good.
Yeah.
But I've got all that to read now. I mean, I'm really happy for all of my friends, all the Irish people, all my Irish friends in comics. Everyone's doing great. Will Sliney has like a couple of TV shows under his belt now. He's a showrunner.
Right.
Um, Nick Roach is doing. I don't know if that's been announced yet, but so I won't say it. But he's doing stuff. Everyone's doing great, and this entire period for me personally has been like professionally really rewarding, and I think that's something that was missing from the way I handled things with comics, because like I was trying to like literally trying to save the industry. There was like massive roundtable talks, and there was this and there was that. I was very much contemplating leaving the store to go and work in comics proper, for a publisher in the US, in 2020 or 2019 or whatever it was. I don't know when I got the offer, and but COVID came along, and it was probably, would I have made a massive difference at that publisher? I don't know. I would like to think I did, or think I would, but like, that didn't happen, and I'm super happy doing what I'm doing in the position I'm doing, and I'm super happy like being able to like pick up the phone and talk to you, or talk to Sean, or talk to whoever. There's loads of things I'd still love to do with the business that I know that we could do really well, but I just don't have the time, or we don't have the people, the right people. And I'm not saying we don't have the right people with us. I'm saying that we haven't expanded enough that we can hire the right people to do some of the newer things that I'd like to do in store. And those are the goals I have now, not whether or not like, comics is still going to be there. Comics is always going to be there. I mean, I'm in a lucky position because I'm a Diamond UK guy. They do a lot of work for me now that I don't have to worry about. I don't need to worry about Loon or Penguin Random House. Both of those companies came looking, and I would probably shift business towards them if I was shifting like 100,000 units a month. But I'm not, and I know because of Brexit, I went off and I had to import my own goods for a while, and I had to do. I know the heartache and hassle it is, what international trade in COVID times is, and how expensive it is, and what a time suck it is. So, like, as far as I'm concerned with the store, I am super happy. As far as I'm concerned with the business, I am super happy. It's
Mm-hmm.
great. I love it. I mean, before I was on to you, I've gotten to know kind of. I would say gotten to know because I talked to him. I talked to Robo from the Foosh a bit about stuff.
The what?
He does a yeah. So there's a world outside of comics.
Well, I know
So
that.
no, you don't. There's a website and a forum called the Foosh. Now I'm not on the forum,
How do you spell
and
that? I can't even understand the
F
word. That's what I mean.
FWOOSH.
Oh, okay.
Right. So there's a guy from Foosh called Robo. He puts up stuff, videos and reviews and stuff like that. But he's been super helpful with all this action figure stuff, and he seemed like a super nice guy. And I always loved the fact I loved his t-shirts. They're always like a mixture of like Star Wars and Rancid and things like that. And so there was a Star Wars figure that was like available in Europe first. He couldn't get it, so I sent him one. And since then he's been super helpful and super supportive with the store. And I found as well, that's the thing, I found that in general, action figure wise, whether it's action figure retailers or action figure reviewers or action figure world, it's just so much more supportive than comics was. Um, but yeah, so beforehand, I was talking to Robo about Walmart Con, which um, but like he's helped us out business wise and stuff like that. He put us on blast that not everyone knew that this is what we were doing,
Mm-hmm.
or the that we had shifted such focus, or that I had shifted my focus to that while delegating comics and stuff like to Bruno. And I mean, in a while, Bruno's going to get so busy and focus on something else that he's going to have to delegate some of his work to somebody else, and so on and so on. And that's like a real business, Dave, because we're growing. We're not bogged down. We're not getting bogged down with stuff, I mean,
I think that's the thing that stands out to me is you went from focusing on survival, not just of Big Bang, but also the industry, to and that's pre-pandemic, to like thriving and growing.
Yeah, and being happy.
Yeah,
being happier. Happy. Yeah, and I think that's really important.
You know what else is important? Actual vacations, not just vacations in the storeroom.
I have not taken a vacation since I think I was due to take like a week off, but then the pandemic hit. So then that all went out the window.
Was the last one when I saw you in New York for New York Comic Con?
That wasn't a vacation.
What?
New York Comic Con is not a vacation.
Oh, it was for me. I mean, Amber and I went to the Met and had a bunch of good food and stuff. So
yeah, Comic Cons are not real vacations. One of these days I will actually go to one of those things, and you're going to go, oh, what time's your flight back to Ireland? And I'm going to go, I'm not going home. I'm going to go see things and do things. Yeah, Comic Cons are vacations. Comic Cons are work. But no, I was meant to take a week off sometime in like I think it was 2019 or 20. Yeah, I can't remember. But something happened, and then COVID hit, and it's funny. I was talking to so JP's on his vacation at the moment. Bruno's taking 9 days off to like go to the west of Ireland in like 2 weeks, and then after that Kieran's taking up. But Kieran was talking to me. He's like you do realize that I've taken 3 holidays in the time that you've taken none. And I was like, yeah, no, I mean, just always something happened. I would like some time off, but at the moment it's pretty impossible.
Well, and things are changing and things are growing, but the good news is you're very happy with what you do. But John, I'm very happy to hear all that, and I'm happy to have you on. Thanks so much for coming on the podcast. That's all I have for you. What's that?
I have a question for you. And I don't know how you'll take it, but let's be real and honest with your listeners.
This is weird.
Okay. Why am I on the podcast?
Because I like you? Oh, okay. Because like
tell the truth.
I admitted this. I was on a podcast earlier and I admitted this. I brought up the bat phone. I had a tough time with booking times with people, and I got John on because John's a friend and I knew he'd come through for me, and he did. And also I wanted to talk to you anyways. I had you on my list. I just moved it up.
So John's a jobber.
John's a jobber. Whatever.
John's a jobber.
How many times? This is like the 4th time I've had you on the podcast, or 5th time or something, and I talk to you regularly anyways. It's not like
I know.
It's not like this is completely out of the blue.
I know, but I just in case people thought that I was going to come on and like say anything controversial or like scream about how we need to save comics. Honestly, it's not. We're just like shooting the shit and talking about like toys. It's great.
Yeah, that's what I'm all about. I mean, it would be desperate if I had Amber on. Amber's my wife, for listeners that don't know. If I was just like, oh God, let's talk about Loki, I guess. I don't have a guest. That's all I have for you, John. Thanks so much for coming on to talk about. Oh, I don't have a different outro voice.
Yes, you do. Anyway, go on.
And that's all I have for you, John. Thanks for coming on to talk about comics, Big Bang comics, and everything else. I appreciate you taking the time.
Okay.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Off Panel with retailer John Hendrick. You can find him at Big Bang Comics in Dublin, Ireland. Love Off Panel, want to support it? Subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts today and give the show a rating or review while you're at it, but 5 stars only. You can also support the show by backing it on Patreon. Find the show at patreon.com/offpanel, and when you back it on there, you get early access to each week's podcast as well as weekly content and more. Want even more? Subscribe to my subscription comic site Sketched at sketch.com for long-form articles, interviews, and the rest of the site's content, and its members-only forum. You can find Off Panel and Sketched on social media by liking on Facebook at /Sketched, that's SKTCHD, Follow on Twitter and Instagram at @sketchcomic or following me at @slicefriedgold. Big thanks to all my existing patrons, including Raj Patel, Jack Mulqueen, Kyle, Carl Kerschel, Robert Masella, Elza Chartier, Luke Nakashoji, Elliot Metz, Dr. Luke, Scott Hazelwood, Scott Buon, Michael Tunk, Canadian by Proxy, Johnny Cannon, Zach Thompson, Bradley Rader, Carl Troy, Megan Marsden, Brandon DePillis, Patrick Brower, Declan Shalvey, Dan Guarino, Josh Williamson, Adam Freeman, Ben Wild, Brian Klein Q, SB, Antonio Offen, Nick Bennett, Daniel Whitfield, Scotty Young, Susanna Polo, Jeff Weir, Reed Hinkley Barnes, Mario Tiambeg, AbductedTheComic.com, Andrew Carita, Matt Mahoney, Charlie Chu, Stephen Hall, Pensacola Pop Comics, Kim Esland, Philip Myra, Christian Shelton, Kenny Porter, Chris Pacello, Torrin Grunbeck, Fuzzbubbles, Christopher Todd, Transmitter Dow, Waltz Comics and Books, Carl Mizell, Danny Ollie, Paul Salates, Akil Wilson, Alex Dimitriopoulos, Terry Dodson, Liana Kingas, Wesley Giff, Sean Kirkham, Alistair Ross, Julio Anta, Brett A. Schmidt, Jason Goodmanson, Paul Reinwant, Vita Ayala, Tara Ferguson, Dave Slusher, WQ Comics, Akil Kokachi, Sean Pinello, Ken Heidelman, Philip Seavey, Al Ewing, Ryan Alcock, David Kelly, Robert Wilson IV, Nick Polito, Brendan Fletcher, Jonathan Nilsson, Matthew Groom, Jason Massey, Adam Bogert, Matthew Taylor, Nick Patera, Jacob Sorelli, Ford Gilmore, David Baraldi, Nick Hall, Bjorn Basin, John Hendrick, Steve Anderson, Ian Maxwell, Cliff Chang, Colin McMahon, Chris Palmer, Scott McGovern, Nathan Fairbairn, Kat McKenzie, Adam Highfield, Fiona Staples, Mark Abnett, Mike Murphy, Michael Shirley, Tom Barnett, Jim Demonakos, Norbert, Nick Lowe, James Kaplan, and Mission Comics and Art in San Francisco. You guys are all the best. A quick thanks to Upright T-Rex Music, who wrote and performed Odd Panel's theme song just for the show. Check out their music on Spotify because it's completely delightful. Thanks for listening, and tune in next week for another episode.